and head right. It then rolls until we descend the other side back into Watopia. Then we've got the first passing of the S's. Again, rolling technical section. The challenge is to keep all 6 riders together at this stage. And then we come back here in the opposite direction to the hilly KOM forward. Ascend this first part together, get yourselves over the top, and then it's all about ramping that speed up and driving it home. We're then going to take the final passing of the S's, driving it home through these rollers as hard as we can for the final few minutes of this ride before we take that right hand turn and this flat road towards the finish line, back here and down my town, Watopia. Dig deep, stay focused, and ride on.
Big thanks to Cy. Go ahead and find Cy over on YouTube. Cy Bradley, he's got an awesome YouTube channel for a longer form of each one of the Zwift Racing League recons, and also some other, I think he also does a couple of streams of some of his personal racing on his YouTube as well. So great addition to the broadcast. We do see on the right-hand side of the screen, it is going to be the women's race for the A division for America's East with the Fiona on the front, Christina Grossman right on her wheel. It is going to be Claire Cameron, Megan Rathwell, Anna Russell, and Smith there as well. Natalie,
yeah.
Thank you. Natalie Smith on the back. I was going to throw a guess at it, and I knew it was Natalie, but didn't want to risk it. They are going to wait up for her. They were dropping her just a moment ago. As now she pushes a solid 5 watts per kilogram. It looks like she is going to get back on tracks.
Good call. We talked about that in our previous broadcast about, when you wait, when you don't wait. And I'd say at this point with a strong rider like Smith, I would wait for her. She's also out of New Zealand, just like Anna Russell on this squad. Claire Cameron just finished Redlands. Nathan, good for her. That's a classic American stage race. It's a 5-day. We just had 2 of the big 3 of the in real life American stage races happen, Redlands and Gila, and then they'll be racing in Arkansas.
Talk about back to back. Does it feel like back to back to back this year? I don't know if maybe it's just always been like that, but I'm like, whoa, they're just throwing them at us.
It hasn't always been like that, so you're absolutely right, and it's almost like America's Grand Tour. It's the closest you have with road racing to, you have 10 days of racing in a 12-day period. So that's pretty close. Not obviously Grand Tour is more than double that, but it's close as we have in America. Anyways, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Nathan. It's a ton of racing. Plus you have to get from Redlands, which is about an hour outside, a little more than an hour outside of Los Angeles, but there's no flight from Redlands to Silver City, New Mexico. You're going to have to do probably 6 hours of driving. So that's Jonathan Jacob, isn't it, over on the men's side of things. For next team, that one of the super teams, no doubt about it. So the men are out on course now as well. This is Anna Russell that we're in with. High racing IQ, great morale person. I think Anna Russell, everybody wants to be her friend. She really is. And then she just vanished on me. She ghosted, but she brought the team back. That's how good she is. And so Anna Russell, they're going to hit the top of it. Let me see. It's reverse KOM first, isn't it? A hilly KOM.
Yep. Reverse Watopia, hilly KOM. That is what they're going after first. As you see Rathwell taking over at the front here. And now backing on off. I wonder if they're going to just rotate through his speed, or if they're going to hold on to their positions. It looks like they are going to make little jumps. A lot of times you see the questions coming through about, is it about jumping or not jumping? It looks like Rathwell's going to back off into the super tuck. They're all super tucking. Will they pedal through the flats? Going to be my next question. A little bit of pedaling from Grossman. Looks like they're just going to chill out and use the reservation of energy as best as they possibly can. Grossman now to the front, and they're all going to just make sure nobody ends up dropped off in the situation. They're playing it what I would call the safe game here, which isn't bad. It's not bad. They may be sacrificing a little bit of speed, but they are gaining a lot of energy back with no pedaling all the way through.
They're playing the long game, if you will. I love that. So this team's going to be really hard to beat today. All of these women are absolute legends. We've noticed a lot of teams with rosters changing and shuffling. This team doesn't change much, do they, Nathan? Any team obviously is going to have the ebbs and the flows, and as far as the results that they get. Riot has remained on the top. They've been challenged this season, maybe more than ever. The depth and ability that we've got here in Season 3 of 21-22 has been absolutely amazing. But Irish woman, Fiona Gallagher, she is a cornerstone here. We watched P.O. Auto, men's team. They have been at the very high end for so long. Same thing for these women, to tell you the truth. And so we're in with Fiona right now. Boy, these women really, from top to bottom, cover the entire planet with this team, going from Ireland to New Zealand, with New York City, Queens, New York, where Christina Grossman calls home. She's been one of the best finishers. The bona fides on this team, Nathan, such a high level. So nice to see Riot is back and in full effect. This, again, Wahoo Lacole America's WA1 have been really challenging and continue to challenge. We're in race 5 of a 6-race season. There are double finale races that we have, but right now Riot is really looking to not give an inch out here, and they might just steal a foot. Here we go. Back to you, Nathan. Riot cruising 30K of racing today in Watopia for our team's time trial.
77 points on the top, 2 points ahead of Wahoo Lacole Americas. Looks like they are going to be distancing themselves right now as they head over toward the Essies for their first time. Laura Perry here trying to lead out WLC, it looks like, for the Wahoo Lacole team. They are in second place currently right now on the leaderboard. ATV Racing Stingers will be the next ones to start up and get out on course, and they have completed a solid 10.2 kilometers. We're waiting for the splits to come on in. We'll get them up on screen as soon as we possibly can. ATV Racing Stingers at 71 points. On the Rivet Cinderellas with 69 points, 2 points behind. So those are the battles here, really. It's going to be first and second between Riot and WLC. ATP Stingers here and On the Rivet Cinderellas are going to be in a battle for third place. And then there's kind of a no woman's land here with Cryogen Gallopin sitting at 66 points. Sisu Du a little ways behind, Fear Nothing, and it's going to be Sisu Royal City at 55 points. A battle for 7th place right now, and maybe 6th if Sisu Royal City can have a really solid ride. It looks like Core Sports no shows on the season, but that is the current top 8 in the order in which they will be starting today.
Team we've got on screen right now is a roll call of monsters: Britt Mason, Danielle Ravnikar, Laura Perry, Natasha Elliott, Sonia Jobidon, and Tamara Roberts. This team, again, Tamara was part of that Texas crew, Nathan, that I was lucky enough to have a chance to sit down and have some tacos with, fittingly, right? Tacos, what could do better than that? Tacos in Texas and Austin, for sure. And she's got a lot of supportive friends in that community, which is the secret sauce to this whole thing, for sure. This team vibes very, very well. Laura Perry up there in Canada has wrapped up a strong cross-country skiing season, and most of these athletes, it's not fully just esports racing that they do. So this time of year, Nathan, it seems like, as we were mentioning with Claire Cameron earlier, as riders bounce back, we had a bunch of professional racers in EMEA who are back after a weekend of racing, jumping in. This is a great way to get some midweek intensity out here. So as we take a look now, Britt Mason is the rider. She's an American on this Wahoo Lacole team, and she's a fan of frogs. She loves frogs. If you take a look
Britt
at
Mason loves frogs?
Yep.
Okay.
Enough to put a frog face on her Zwift Power profile, at least. I assume that means I don't like frogs enough to do that, and I like frogs. She doesn't
like frogs, and that's why it's there. I mean, I don't know.
Or is that the Kappa? It looks like the Kappa's face
is
as well.
It actually
Maybe
the Kappa? Is it the Kappa? That would be awesome.
God,
I love the Kappa.
These are good. Oh, Nathan, heads up. A little split here. What's going on? Just a momentary lapse of reason there? Yeah,
I think just for a moment there was just a little bit of not a struggle or anything.
It's a classic moment, Nathan. I think a rider was going back to go get them at the same time that they were coming. You know, see what I mean? See what happens? Even a really strong team like WLC, the little hiccup, how you respond, they're right back. So that's a really good. If that's your worst moment, you had a great day.
100%. I think the moment there through the Essies, you can get these in these rollers. The speed can pick up a ton from the rider on the front, giving a little bit of a
Like
punch.
whiplash
and you can be unaware.
effect.
Yeah, and as you go backwards, like right here, if it's your time to take over the caboose of the train here, and you can find yourself, look, do you see the speed,
the
the figuring
replay.
out who's you're on? No, this is live. And
Oh, it's almost like
who's
replay
on-
of what we were talking about.
whose wheel is on whose wheel? Whose responsibility is it to close the gap? That can get confusing at times, sometimes too.
Okay.
And so
We've identified a little issue here for WLC. Just happened to kind of because they're under our microscope here. This has happened twice now in 2K, Nathan.
yeah, it's a great
Two
point.
riders.
It's a
So
great
whatever
point.
they're doing, whatever their process of how they're coming off the front, or there's something, it's almost like, hey, the car isn't broken, it still runs, but hey, you hear that sound? I'd go see the mechanic.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times there's two different things that can happen here from what I'm seeing, right? If I were a DS and I were trying to analyze what might be happening here, one of them is the power source and how it's being put into the game by either the individual or just the way in which the power source interacts with the game makes it very difficult to temper the speed of the avatar. So it ends up with like, I have to push really hard in order to get a certain amount of watts to close this down. And
Yes.
I then overshoot over and over again because I can't get
Oh,
a
boy.
consistency out of this trainer. Or somebody's way that they tend to produce power, they're not very good or they're not experienced at making sure there's just a consistent effort. And it's always like, you know, when someone first starts using power, what I hear almost across the board as a coach for years, I've heard it's all over the place. It's like 300
right.
and then it's 200. Well, that might be because you're not used to using your legs as small motor skills. You're used to them being large motor, right? And so learning how to use your legs with precision and how to control an avatar can be very difficult. So a lot of times you end up with these situations with overshooting. And then on top of that, you add it to a video game where there's a huge amount of depth perception, and whether or not you can get that depth perception right to sit on a wheel can be a very challenging thing, even at the highest level. And this past WTRL TTT, I rode with OMG. Oh my God, they killed Kenny the last 2 weeks. We won the TTT, but I'm still screaming at those guys in my head at times. Why are you doing this? What are you doing this? And actually, we're talking about analyzing where we still are making huge mistakes, exactly like what you're seeing from WLC. Because you
there's
push
so
somebody
much
off
time.
a wheel. You push someone off a wheel. Sorry, one last thing. I don't think people recognize how much it messes with the other people and their avatars if they're really trying to do a good job of this by overlapping another avatar. It will push someone off a wheel over and over and over again and cause all kinds of mayhem. So getting that straight line is really, really crucial.
And it's so hard to do. I mean, so really
It is.
super good points, right? And so that's why if it was easy to do, everyone would be doing it. And Nathan, we've only seen a few teams like PO Auto today. So you can see that they're close now. I want to give a shout out to, I have a lot of, my heart goes out to Sonia Jobadon. The Canadian worked so hard to stay in this group here. And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of fight. Now, this is going to be Danielle Ravnikar that we're with. So what was going on there was they have a rider that's on the squad that this is such a high level, and just trying to nurse her along was really disrupting their flow. Now that these five are back just going together, unfortunately, at this point now they had to say goodbye, but ultimately learning along the way, getting stronger every race. If we don't win, we learn is a great motto. And now they can start trying to pick up speed. We watched it happen today with Socks for Watts, the Unicorns. Remember that, Nathan, how they picked off 3 or 4 teams after really a tough start. So Wahoo Lacole's going to try to fight back. We spent a lot of time with them, and I think it's great because you've really got to watch there. Sort of like in a road race, in a 6-hour race, you never really see what the first couple of hours look like. And sometimes some really important things can happen. It's like a chess match where those pieces, the way they move, set up the final or the finale out here. And this is going to be now a real I would say, renaissance for this team out on course. 30K of racing. This is ATP that we're with. And one of the really strong riders in ZRL is Rachel Lieberman out of Seattle. She's been a leader on every team that she rides for. And as we pick them up, Nathan, they have 5 ladies together here. And let me see who's with her today. As ATP, again, has Allie B, Katie Candeloro, Meredith Morin, and Katrina Weiss, or Weiss, I think, more likely. I'm sorry, Katrina. Definitely let me know. Katrina Weiss, though, I'm going to go with, is the last rider that we've got on this team. So, Nathan, I have a feeling this is a top 3 ride at worst. We should be able to break down the splits out here, I hope, at some point.
Yeah, they're just coming through. And,
Just coming through? All right.
ATP, I think, are actually getting the better, perhaps, of Wahoo Loco. They were 1 second slower at the last check, but I think they've made up a little bit of time as WLC were trying to figure a few things out through the Essies there. And it does look to me like they've brought back 4 seconds on WLC. We'll see as they come through this next checkpoint in just a moment. On the Rivet Cinderellas, they're only 6 seconds behind. Crouch and Gallopin, 12:22 at that 8 kilometer mark. Sisu Do there, 12:34, 13:41, and a 13:59. This is really close racing, though, in the top 5 right now, 22 down to 12:04. It's not huge time gaps, actually.
The real race, Nathan, I am stoked. We are locked and loaded as Wahoo Loco and ATP. That's where the race, I think Riot's on one of those days. They are back, baby. And, as we said, Riot has been challenged like never before here this season, but I think that they have rallied their troops and are back together. Strong feeling that they might be untouchable today. Look at how close it is, and watch this one here. It's not one team. It's not 2 teams. It's not 3 teams. I think it's going to be 4 because Gallopin is going to be extremely, as a matter of fact, Nathan, the bike race is going to be absolutely incredible. ATP Racing Stingers, Wahoo Loco on the Rivet Cinderellas, clearly CrowdGen will be there. And I'm wondering what even Sisu do, or Royal City, or Fear Nothing might do. But certainly, we're going to have second place might be decided by less than a second today. I don't expect that they bring Riot back, however, but I've been proven wrong. Come on, ladies, you can do it again. Prove me wrong for the millionth in 10 times.
22:54, pretty big gap opening up, it looks like, as Riot have really figured things out, but it looks like here. Now, it does look like WLC are starting to ramp things up again as they're up to 58 seconds again on the gap. It is a 1 minute time gap between the two, but 2 seconds, as you can see. So it's on the edge here between ATP Racing. So ATP Racing, they were behind by 1 second, and now at the 16K mark, they bring it back by 3 seconds. So now they're ahead by 2 seconds at 23:27.
But Wahoo Loco, I think, fixed the issue. They were just sort of they had a couple splits open up. And they did not have a good run there between 8 and 16K, did they? So I think they might be back on it.
I think you're right there. I do think there is something they've kind of figured out, and they've maybe got they got the time checks in coming in as well, going, a little bit of trouble. So now Perry here heading to the front with 5.6 watts per kilogram, saying, come and chase me if you want, ATP. They can also see in the rider list nearby exactly what the time gaps are. Lieberman now coming right on by their teammate here at 4.5. 45 kilometers per hour if you compare the speed, 43. But in this section, it tends to be a little bit slower through this section that they're heading through right now. So those speed differentiations, you can't put too much on them because Lieberman was just coming off of a downhill, and now it's at 44 kilometers per hour. These ones are a little bit closer in comparison. And this will also give you an idea because of the reality of a pure power versus watts per kilogram, right? Lieberman here at a 4.5 was pulling almost 44 kilometers per hour, whereas Elliott on the front, about the same. Now she's about the same wattage at about the same watts per kilogram. But if we do get riders that are different in weight, you're going to start seeing raw wattage reward a little bit more on those flats. Always something to kind of pay attention to.
Yeah. Totally. I'm talking about you, Christina Grossman, right? I mean, those kind of riders, this is where they take mega pulls coming through. And right on cue. There she is, so Grossman. Now, this is going to be Riot that we're looking at, the fastest time out here today. So no one is untouchable out here. Things can, fourth rider, things can always go sideways or pear-shaped on you. but I would not anticipate that. Anna Russell has been awesome for this team, helping keep the motivation high. They're always on the sharp end of things. There's no doubt about it. So the ladies are down to the real distance today is going to be 29.7K out there. The second climb as they hit Watopia Hilly KOM forward now. The steepest pitch that I think we see in a team time trial anywhere, ZRL, WTRL. This is another good example of a team that's done their work over all of these riders over in Thursday's WTRL races, which we'll be looking forward to this week. Fired up. Another team that does it extremely well. We were talking about PO Auto, who've had an incredible arc in the ZRLs. Here's another team that doesn't have the same arc because they started as a community squad, then absolutely went straight to the top of the table, moved into Premier, and they've become one of the best teams in the shortest amount of time. They've become one of the all-time great squads in esports history. And Nathan, they're through the middle part of the course. They've got 6 riders together. This could be one of the fastest times that we've ever seen out on this course. I'll have to dig in on that one because, as you can see now, Riot is on a very steep grade. But Nathan's going to bring us over, thanks, man, over to the men's side of things. I'm surprised that we don't see all. So the bike that you see with the disc wheels here, that's actually going to be slipperier, faster, more aerodynamic than even the Tron bike. These guys are just about pure speed. So even though there's these really tough climbs, they're not that long. I think these guys think they're going to be able to just muscle the climbs and are looking forward to eking out that little extra speed they'll get with these unbelievably slippery bikes. Do you think am I getting it right there with the bike choice? They even try to, instead of going Tron, they're trying to outsmart that, it seems.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I mean, on a course like this today, I would definitely be going with, I mean, at the speeds that these guys are carrying, I'm really all about the fastest of the fastest on the flats. As much speed as you can possibly get on the downhill, especially of that reverse on the other side of the Watopia climbs. That speed and the carrying through the speed is just so essential. I just think you gain so much from that. But that's my take from my experience in my power profile and the profiles of the riders that I'm riding with, right? And so, where I think my teams will shine is just throwing down as many watts as we possibly can for as much speed as we can possibly produce. Whereas some riders, they might have some reasons for throwing down a Tron, for getting over the top of a climb as quickly as they possibly can. And they're trying to spread things out a little bit more across the entirety of the course. So I do think that, when it's not just the raw wattage, pure speed situation for the flats and the downhills, I think the Tron bike does play out a little bit better for you.
Yeah, we have seen riders. So obviously, slipperiest is going to be fastest, not the best for the climbing parts. And other riders have been defensive about it. Well, that doesn't quite sound right. They haven't been defensive about it, but they've used a bike.
Some people get pretty.
They do get defensive, actually.
Yeah, there's some identity in the bike. I think there's a little bit of I think I'm right about the bike I chose.
No, totally. But in this case, I'm meaning literally as far as they're using a bike with they're the most concerned that they might have trouble getting dropped, possibly. They use a bike that would help them to not be dropped by making that play, rather than worrying about what's the flat-out fastest bike for the day. They're just trying to maybe get a little bit of a safety net for themselves.
Look, this is a sensitive topic, Dave, okay? My identity is your identity wrapped up in what bike you chose for Zwift. Yes, 100%. My whiteboard is important to me. Maybe not quite as important as Anna's. We'll see.
You would be, well, you know what's funny? There's a lot of passion around this, and as we've seen with anything, right, Nathan? Passion will definitely drive a lot of your, how much of the mental time you spend on something and how into it you get. And I tell you, wow, they look great. Going back here, talk about passion and precision. This team is phenomenal. What a ride from Riot today. Every now and then, you just really get it right. And I'd have to say that Riot is, so they're just shark brain out here today. They're all absolutely on point. The mission is clear. Send a message in the final team time trial of the regular season of ZRL. This is America's East, and this team now down to, let's call it 5K and a little change of racing remaining. But at this point now, it's either downhill or flat. They'll keep the accelerator down on the floorboard, no doubt about it. And we'll start looking at those checks coming through. We are starting our fastest teams. The first teams out on course will be the season leaders based on points out there. We saw that Riot only had a couple point lead on Wahoo Lacole, so ATP Racing is actually doing Riot a favor, Nathan, if they beat Wahoo Lacole, putting a little more breathing room before the two squads going into race 6 next week. If they hold on, which that won't be easy.
A little bit interested in the situation here for America's East with the women. For the league results so far, if we go by race, it wasn't, so they've won everything except for the first race. They really struggled in, right?
That was the all-in where we didn't have the bonus, no FTS, no FAL.
Yeah, it was just first
very
across the line at the
ahead.
end of the day scratch race, right?
Yeah, and I guess they gambled and it didn't pay off that day, right? It was a high-risk, high-stakes poker racing out there that day. Easy to see how that could happen to even the best teams.
Yeah, I was just wondering how they went for the first team time trial, and it looks like it was just fine, looking back on it.
They won,
so,
right?
Yeah. Was it by a lot is going to be my question, or was it pretty close? It was, from what I'm seeing here, they won by about 14 seconds or so from the last time up against Wahoo Lacole, but they've really, today I think it's going to be even more than that, so obviously they've been doing
Look at how perfect they are. I mean, so this is classic. So Anna Russell's a colleague of ours. She actually does the broadcast for APAC. She takes this seriously. She has a lot of fun as well. But this team has worked and worked and worked. It's great that they have laughs along the way, but they just don't miss a step out here. Christina Grossman going back to the front. As a matter of fact, I think PO Auto, the men's team, would look at this and say, respect. These ladies are doing exactly what they were doing out here as far as precision. Beautiful, beautiful job. This certainly would be a clinic in team time trialing put on by Riot today.
Had a 35.08 at 24K.
Did they really?
Yeah, so at the America's West, EMEA West, but they went
exactly
up faster than Riot, though, interesting enough. So Riot have been consistent, I think, throughout the entirety of this, and are actually maybe having better splits than we saw from
until
EMEA.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that should mean that Riot would have a little more in the tank, to tell you
exactly.
Right,
yep,
so
because they went through with 11:54 at the 10 seconds faster.
We're racing against a ghost. Yeah, they did this 8 hours ago or something. Well, 6 hours ago. So that's one of the cool things about ZRL and WTRL is that we can race around the globe at times that are convenient for our teams and riders. But you do get to compare yourself against the best. And I love that. Course conditions never change in ZWIFT on Watopia. The wind doesn't change. It doesn't start hailing. The rain is only virtual. It doesn't actually affect your speed. This is Natasha Elliott of Wahoo Lacole. Her work done for the team today. That 24K split time coming in, and it is 20 seconds for ATP. I expected to see Wahoo Lacole coming back, maybe even moving into second, so ATP having a great day as well. They're pretty solidly in second there because not a lot, you don't expect to see a ton change in the last 6K after that final check. It's downhill, more or less, Nathan. So picking up 20 seconds is a huge, huge ask for a team that's already got you 20 seconds in the hole.
They let go of a rider, too. ATP are down to 4 at this point.
So is Wahoo. So
Wahoo got 5.
Oh, no.
They got 5 left.
I'm sorry. I thought I saw one of their riders coming off. My bad. My bad. Good call. Thank you.
Lieberman now at the front. and I think they're just gaining time at this point. Lieberman's absolutely flying. Mason went to the front, though, just a second ago, pulling 5 watts per kilogram, as you can see, but trying to hold it down for WLC, but it looks like ATP, they're going to get this one. Huge ride. And this goes to show you why TTT practice is so incredibly important, because these teams most definitely, ATP, have been showing up week in and week out at the highest level in the WTRL TTT time trial and on Thursdays, and it is paying off dividends right now for this team.
You reap what you sow, as they say. So they've got a few K left. I love how instead of answering me or telling me I'm wrong, you just showed me the picture like my mom would, right? Like, don't need to say anything. You can just look for yourself. There you go. Okay, back to correct announcing. Dax. Yes. So I think I might have. I saw a rider alone, so I thought maybe she had been dropped. I think that's my excuse. This is no fault.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw that too.
Okay.
And I was like, no, that's not what's happening, but it's okay. Just leave it alone.
That's my excuse. Noah Balch has been real. You race against him a lot, don't you, Noah?
Yeah, he's the bring me back king. He's the guy that just goes to the front and brings every attack that goes off the front back into the fold. But it's only me. I think he's marked me at this point. I'm not letting Nathan go anywhere.
You know what? Yeah, no. He's got your number, as they say, right? And that happens in real life racing, Nathan, where you sort of find your adversaries or nemesis, and you always seem to end up like, there's always the guy you hate, right? You just think, oh, I can't stand, I can smell him, or I can't stand having him near me. He always crashes, or he takes corners weird. And that guy always is lurking around you. You're like, there's 120 of us. Why are you always here? You know, but it just works out that way. God works in strange ways, right? Or mysterious ways. And I tell you what, it's really, really classic. As you look now, Velocio, Nate, I haven't even had a chance to mention them. Let's jump in with the guys now as they're deep into this. We get stuck in with some of the best men. Velocio's got a 6-second advantage on next. Oh, man, this must have been an absolute slugfest. Look at them today. They are precision. So there's only... Boy, Nathan, I know it's hard to put you on the spot. I say there's 20 teams in ZRL, men and women combined, that can do this. Precision formation riding, and we've seen 2 of them, Riot and Next, and Velocio makes 3 of what I call about 20 teams that can do this. This good.
Yeah, I'm wondering what I want to see, because we have the splits from Pio Auto this afternoon.
Oh boy!
Getting a comparison between them might be interesting. 31.28 at the 24K mark. So
wasn't 74 km/h the fastest that we saw? Well, not right through here because it levels out, but that's yeah. This should be very comparable. Let's go back to what you were just saying with Pio Auto. We might
Pio
have
Auto
2.
31.28. So I mean, that's pretty.
Even quicker. Yeah.
Now I'm wondering from Velocio here what they're able to pull off, because they were at a 20:53. They were the fastest time at the last at that 16K marker. They should be bringing their time in here in just a moment. We'll see if they can bring something through here, because Pio Auto were a 20:45 at the 16K marker. So Velocio are within striking distance, but it does look like they're starting to peter out just a little bit here at the back end. You do see them kind of slowing down, looking for some recovery still, rather than rolling through with some speed. Frank now from Velocio, now making his way to the front. As you can see, pumping it up 6.5-ish. But that's what you need on the front consistently, 6 to 7 all day long in order to match Pio Auto. And we'll see if they're able to bring that some of that time back. I think, though, from what I'm seeing from Velocio here, this might be a winning ride right now.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine it isn't, but that's how good Next is. Anything is still in play. On the Rivet Blur, 32.12, highly respectable there at 24K. So we're seeing these time checks coming in. We're in it now with Velocio. They have been so much fun to watch in their pursuit of ZRL victories. It's been quite a quest. It really has. And another team that has some tremendous stories. So this is slightly sub-ideal right now. When every second matters, you do like to keep the entire team together. I mean, for any other team, this would be the best moment of the day for their squad. For these guys, they just
31-51 is what they come through with. So obviously a 10-second gap now at this point.
31-28. You said for PO Auto
Yeah. So not
EMEA
quite,
Africa.
literally world champion level riders. I mean, that's where
In
PO
that
Auto
neighborhood.
sit, right? But they're right there. I
Yep.
mean, they're right
Yep.
there.
Yeah, but you're right. So, it's certainly noteworthy how good PO Auto is, that's for sure. Looks like we've got OTR and Laura Babineau into the last 800 meters. Less than 1K to go at this point.
Yeah, I definitely want to highlight these riders here. And again, welcome, Laura, to this Babineau to the world of ZRL here and Zwift Racing. She's been posting a lot about it, and it's great to see her addition to this team as of recently. Molly Van Holly now taking over to the front. Bishop's there as well. She's an animal, dude. She does like 3 TTTs a day sometimes. Sarah Bishop here in 367 watts now, as this is a monster team and a great effort coming from the Cinderellas. 36-13 was the last time that they have. They are looking to battle it out. 3 seconds between them and Wahoo Lacole. If they were to beat Wahoo Lacole on the day, that would be a monster ride.
Sure would. Sarah Bishop, the American. Renat Blushki. We mentioned Lauren. I said Laura. I'm sorry, Lauren. I bet you that happens all the time. It would drive me crazy. Lauren Babineau, Canadian superstar. Then you've got Jen Moroz and Crush It, Cassandra Rush, who's got a huge following. So good job to OTR Racing. This is going to be CrowdGen Gallop and Nathan. Let me shout these ladies out. I love this team. Angel Martin, the American, with the other American, Catherine Rush. Pascal Legrand is the Canadian on the team, along with her countrywomen, Diana Bowmans, Judy Ann Park, and Debbie Woods Turner. That makes up the CrowdGen Galloping team. They're down inside the final K here. So bring it on home for the ladies out here. Behind Riot, it's really a scrap. Everybody having a strong ride. You can see these 10-second gaps in that last bit going to be hard to overcome, but will that be our final placings? I doubt it. We'll usually have one team that has a surge. Maybe it will be On the Rivet, Cinderellas, or CrowdGen Galloping coming for them now, full tilt.
Moving our way through the rest of this. This is an interesting day, actually, for all these teams from what I'm seeing here, because Sisu Du all the way up in that third place at 36 minutes. I mean, this is quite the battle playing out between a lot of these teams that are ranked a little bit lower on the season. It's kind of anybody's game, and I love this, how the TTT is bringing out new skills and new teams to the top end, because Wahoo Lacole with the struggle there up against some of these teams that are nowhere near them in the points right now when it comes to the rest of the season and modes of racing that we do. Annie Poland and the rest of the Sisu D team making the way to the line. Great to see them finishing up.
I got to say, not many teams finished with 6 today. Way to go, Sisu. I Race Like a Girl. That's going to be Amanda Wendorf. You said Annie Poland's name. She's a star. Mackenzie Yates, Robin Hardage, Sarah Donath, Shannon Kaplan on that I Race Like a Girl team. So, you know what? There's 2 Sisu teams, aren't there? Or no? This is
there's a Sisu Racing
RC.
Royal City, so the RCC team that we're looking at.
Katie
right now.
Clark, yep, there you go. I believe JD Frang on that team is Sisu's another one of these teams that has franchised, and sometimes we'll see a hybrid edition of that squad.
Velocio making the way to the line.
Not far to go for them. They're going to need to eke out, just like trying to squeeze blood out of a stone now. It takes everything you've got. They're going to finish with 5. That's impressive on its own out here. So this is our men's finish, one of our all-time top squads. Velocio is done and dusted. I'm going to be very interested to see if that was enough or not out here today, Nathan.
As we jump in with, it's going to be Restart. Also, excuse me, not Restart. Then we got Sisu here, and then Restart is finishing up as well for the men's side.
Yeah, on that men's side, if you look at it, Velocio really brought the A squad. Charles McCarthy, Dan Cassidy, Luz Zaliga, Jan Welford, Jason Frank, Ryan Atkins. We talked a lot about him the other week. What a cool dude. Trevor Robb and Tucker Wetmore. Although they all couldn't have raced because that's more than 6. We start with 6 and take your time off 4. So that might be a director that I've got thrown into the mix there. So this is going to be restart that we're looking at, I believe, here. And let's see, 4. Yeah, they are at 4. Sometimes there's a rider lurking just behind the camera, so I'm slightly hesitant to say 4.
I think
it is.
you might be right about that.
No one there. All right, thanks. Every now and then, kind of take a look behind. Thank you, super producer Nathan here.
33:06 is what we've got right now for them, so a solid minute or so behind the top finishers. I think OTR next and Velocio kind of at the top level here of this America's East, but we start here leading out from 4th. Le Intrepids, VCRT, Amstavs, they're trying to chase them down, all within that 33-minute marker.
How's your Portuguese?
We're not working on that. Nope, we're not working on that.
Okay. All right. Well, there are a
German,
ton
just
of
the
Brazilians. Ton of Brazilians in this race, Nathan. The entire ZTBR team, which is really cool to see. I love that Brazilian flag. And we had a Brazilian Olympian, Flavia Oliveira, was at the Belgian waffle ride, so I got to see that flag a lot. Cinto Gregory, Eduardo Sugai, Julio Manolos, Osmar Vaz, Rogin Melo, Wagner da Silva, and Walter. So one of those riders, I think Walter might be the direct. They might have finished, actually, just a second ago. There's Larry Hughes, the Pizza Boys as well. So we're just getting everybody across the line. But I love seeing an all-Brazilian team, Nathan. That's a first for me. We've seen Brazilian athletes for sure. But all-Brazilian squad now. So that's a big step forward.
Yeah, it seems like Zwift's really starting to take off. I'm seeing more and more of the Brazilian flag actually is as of recently.
And Argentinian, I'd say. More of that Argentinian flag, too. It's for me.
Trail Mesh, Velocio, second Velocio team that's out here. It's going to be Meto Rob Wellford. Did I miss one? Ziliga here. Now as they make their final gallop to the line. VCRT chasing them down, or is it the other way around? Did they get passed by the VCRT? As I believe VCRT are perhaps chasing them down, as Trail Mesh are a little bit lower down in the standings right now. Restart one of their boys that fell off. It is going to be the Pizza Boys.
We had we had a 9th place team win, but based on the fact that they unfortunately had to miss some races early in the season, so a whole bunch of points just weren't in their tally. But that's got to be a record, Nathan, for a 9th place team to win an event, as well at this part of the season for sure. Looks like Pizza Boys, a lot of love for these guys. This is another team that's made some big steps this season. Good job to Chris Rednauer, Cody